Hey guys, this is Nathan with the Daily Analysis. And so today I am thinking about changing the way we do the daily analysis. Okay, so this is really important. What I want you to do is leave a comment below if you like the idea and the format that I'm thinking about changing the analysis to. So it's really important that I get the feedback so that I know what exactly is best for you guys, because you're the watchers of the daily analysis are the people that we're doing the analysis for, of course. So we have about 5,000 people on our list to get daily analysis. Actually, about 6,000 now on our list to get daily analysis. But I do get pretty few comments based on that amount. So I'd like to get some more feedback. And if you like the way that I'm thinking about doing it now, and that the way I will do it today, please make sure you let me know so that I know to continue doing that. And if not, let me know that also so I know to kind of go back to the old style. Okay, so with that being said, the new style that I'm thinking might be more effective and helpful for the daily analysis would be to, instead of just going over to the typical pairs, the ones that I like to watch every day, and just doing the analysis regardless of what's going on, would be to actually ignore pairs that are not being very active in the market, like the euro dollar, for example, and rather to only go to pairs that I think could have a trade setup in the next day or 2 days, and only cover those pairs in a lot of detail, and then follow up with those trade setups the next day, while also going into new trade setup opportunities. That way it's a mixture of trade ideas and how those would have performed, and new trade ideas, rather than just going over the typical pairs regardless of if they are presenting trade opportunities or not. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking about. I just was thinking about it and thought that might be more effective for you. Please let me know if that is what you want, or if you'd like to just go over the major currencies, because those are the ones that you're looking at. Either way is fine with me. I just want it to be the most helpful for you. Okay, so leave a comment based on that. Let me know, and without further ado, let's get into the analysis. I do want to make a quick note that we have one red tagged event tomorrow. Okay, this is March 22nd is tomorrow, and it is German IFO business climate. Okay, so a pretty big red tagged event for the euro. Make sure that you have that. If you're trading during the London session, that's kind of the end of the London session, you want to keep that in mind. Also, that could play a role on some of the stuff that we talk about today. So that's the major event tomorrow, pretty much the only red tagged event out there. Okay guys, just to quickly cover our terms, the idea here is that the daily analysis is for educational purposes only. We are not trying to give you investment advice by any stretch. We're just trying to share our personal ideas on the market. What I may think are trade setups may absolutely not be trade setups for you, so please do not take this as investment advice, and make sure that you understand all of these terms. Okay, so we'll go ahead and ignore the euro dollar actually today, because there's no pending trade setup that I think would generate in the next day or two. Okay, just want to quickly cover pound, although it's not a great trade up in the near future. We did talk about this yesterday. I let you know that I made a buy here and got beat up on this shakeout, but you do see that this actually has continued nicely on this bounce, like we talked about. Struggling right now at the top of this area, which could push it right back down. Keep that in mind if you survived and are still in a long position on this pound. But this bounce that we suspected might come up here into 152.70 is actually still intact. A pretty good bullish move today, coming into an area here around 151.77. So keep that in mind, but just wanted to give you another update. This was just a shakeout, unfortunately, that I got beat up on here. Kind of broke out of the little mini wedge that we had here, and looks like it does want to continue up to this area. And then of course I'll keep you updated when we get up here, because that'll be a great trade setup when that happens. Okay, another update on the odd. We talked about the bullish potential all the way down here. Hopefully some of you got in and are still riding this and are up big. If you are, you did a much better job of managing the trade than I did. I did not get a lot of profit on this trade, but still, for someone who put a little more room on it, they should be up really nicely and very well done on this trade. Now, not only is this an update because we talked about potential trade setup here, but there's also another potential trade happening now. If we draw this little wedge in here, the recent move is certainly to the upside, so we have some bullish momentum here. Sideways market overall, of course, but some recent bullish momentum. This is a breakout of this wedge trying to show continuation. Now again, keep my note about the odd. It is a little bit dangerous because of the choppiness in the sideways market, so there's a lot of support and resistance. If you're not comfortable with that, you might want to be very careful with this pair. However, the consistency of the sideways market is quite appealing to the opposite, reasoning that it's very likely that we get bounces all the way back up and down. Okay, so what I would consider a trade setup here would be to draw a horizontal line out of the top price here that it broke out of in this recent wedge, and consider a retest and continuation of that level as a very possible trade setup on the Australian dollar. That's something that I would consider, and stop loss would be a little bit below here, and target would still be all the way up here. This would be the target whether you took it here or all the way down here, even if you took a trade up here. In my opinion, the target is still the same. 105.98 is the exact line that I have, but it's maybe a little few pips below to increase the probability that it gets there. Anyway, odd still moving nicely. I think has been a really consistent pair, even though it's not trending like we like to see. It's still been very consistent, and since this rejection here and move up, bullish for the most part. Still some shakeouts, of course, but bullish for the most part. All right, now the euro pound is an interesting one because you could consider this a potential trade setup, but it's a little weird. I think the gap here, how it gapped down to the bottom and kind of chopped there, is what throws me off a little bit. So the movement is not as consistent. It's a little harder for me, I guess, to wrap my mind around, because you could consider this gap, it tried to fill the gap here, but then you could consider this a break, this a retest of the area, and this a move down, and that would definitely qualify as a trade setup and as potential movement forward. However, I'm not 100% buying into this. I still want to draw attention to it because I know we've talked about the potential move down here, but I'm not quite there yet on this pound. So I guess the way that I would approach it is considering this line as a potential wedge that's forming here, and the top here probably looks a little better on a smaller time frame. I'm drawing this in just a few daily bars. But within this, maybe a centering of this bar and a continuation. I think that the bearish potential is there, guys. I'm not saying that it's not. We did get a break out of the bottom of what I consider the range, but just not like a big momentum move. The gap kind of throws you off. So I don't know. I guess I want to cover it. I want to show you that it's there, but I'm not ready to trade it yet. That's just my total personal opinion on this euro bound. Leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. I would really appreciate any other views on this, because it's a pair that I'm just really unsure about where I think the market is trying to take it. I don't know if it's going to be an area where it continues to chop. It doesn't really make a good move here. So I'm still holding off on this, though it does qualify as a potential trade based on what we talked about, breaking out of this, this zone area and showing a little bit of momentum in just, if you just look at today's bar alone, showing a little bit of momentum, so some potential there. Alright guys, so since we're just covering possible trade setups, ignoring some of the other pairs and going with some of the ones that we never cover, like the Canadian Japanese yen. And this is actually a pair and a trade setup that one of the guys in our mentoring program brought up to me. I did not really look at it or find it myself, but it is a very interesting opportunity. The Canadian yen is definitely in a nice move up, had a pullback, and is now retesting a critical level. So what we could have here is a classic trend, pullback and higher high, maybe heading into our next level, which I have highlighted there in pink at the top. And so we had a pretty bearish day today, but you can see it's had a lot of trouble with this level. If we do get a break and a retest on this level, this could be a great trade opportunity into our next area. By the way, I'm getting these areas on the weekly chart, so if you zoom out to the weekly chart, you'll see even these levels that I've highlighted here are not huge levels, because the Canadian yen is not a really heavily traded pair that often builds a lot of levels on these longer time frames. You can find smaller levels like these, quite easily, like you can on any chart. But on the weekly and the daily chart specifically, there's not huge market levels as much as there is, for instance, on the euro dollar, the pound dollar, and the US yen and pairs like that. So because of that, a lot of people don't like to trade it. I don't particularly love trading pairs that are not, more major than CAD yen, but I still wouldn't not take a good trade opportunity. And so here's one where we could be breaking a key level in continuation of a big trend and looking for an opportunity. You can see all the momentum here from the recent uptrend. Certainly the daily chart has moved nicely with all the yen weakness, and so if the yen weakness were to continue and we got a break here, this could be a good trade. The target here, by the way, is around 98, and so that's what I'll be keeping an eye on as far as possible entries, because one of our students brought it up to us, and I think it could be a good long-term trade, perhaps one with a stop below this level and a target into this level, and a pretty standard high probability trade for a good risk-reward ratio. And when I say high probability, typically I mean like 30% is a high probability if you're having a 4-to-1 or a 5-to-1 risk reward ratio, because you don't need to win very many trades to be quite profitable. And so that's how I, just to give you an idea of my terminology, when I'm saying high probability in these little bit longer time frames, I don't mean 80%, I mean 30%, 35%, just so you're understanding there. All right, so that's the CAD yen. Alright guys, and our other yen trade potential is the US yen. It's kind of the opposite, where rather than looking to break an upward level, it's actually a test on a lower level. And so what we have here on the US yen is some consolidation. If you just kind of connect these points and connect the top here, a little bit of consolidation here, but it's testing back into the zone and could be an area where price catapults back up. And if you're like me, you think that the US yen still does have a lot more potential to go up higher if it chooses. These yen pairs, in my opinion, have a lot more weakness to give if they want. So this is an area where I would consider a pretty good price for US yen if you're of the thinking that I am, that the trend could very much continue here at any point. Now, the setup, I would say, has not really occurred yet due to this the funnel here, especially this top area that we're talking about. You would need a break and maybe a test and a continuation. You have to wait for that to set itself up. However, we are nearing an opportunity. I would not suggest taking the CAD yen and the US yen long. If they both break up, I would normally suggest taking one or the other so you're not doubling your risk on a yen cross. However, I think they're both worth looking at, so that you can pick the better of the two. If the US dollar is a lot stronger than the Canadian dollar, obviously the US yen makes a better choice, and vice versa. So another look here again. Pulling back, giving an opportunity for buyers to get in, and it's just a matter of if it makes a good move. Perhaps again a breakout of the little wedge that we're forming now, and a continuation toward higher prices from that point. So take a look at that US yen. Alright, and lastly, just want to cover this US dollar Canadian dollar. Not a current trade setup, but could be a huge fake out to the downside yesterday. I thought that we had a great bullish potential, especially a retest of this trend line, continuation of this move, perhaps at least back into above the 103 area. Thought was a pretty high potential, but a huge fake out with all of the USD CAD, all of the Canadian pairs going down. Came all the way back down to 102 basically, and then moved all the way back up. So right now it's in the middle here. I would say not tradable at this point. But if we get a break of this level, perhaps on a smaller time frame, if you're trading, intraday tomorrow, it could be a good move up to here. And then, of course, if it breaks to the downside, we have this potential here as a target area. To the downside, it's not looking good to me right now. It's a little awkward and a little choppy there. But if it breaks up, I think that there's still some long potential here. It's not pretty, the shakeouts and the moves and the back and forth. However, you have a level here. You have a pretty obvious area where price is stalled, and you have a level up here, and then you have a trend line here. So this should still act as a magnet for price. So if you get that continuation, I think the USD CAD is still very much a long trade setup if it shows that momentum a little bit higher and through that area. Okay guys, so we still ended up covering quite a few pairs today because the markets moved a little more, and so there's a decent amount of trade setups. But again, let me know if you think just covering pairs with immediate trade setups, or at least very close trade potential, if you think that's more beneficial. If you don't, I really would like to get your feedback on this, and I would appreciate that quite a bit. Alright guys, so I will be with you tomorrow, and in the meantime, have a great day and good trading.